Okay, call your first witness.
I would call Shania Jenkins, please.
Right this way, Matt. Please follow me. Please face the clerk and raise your right hand.
Ms. Jenkins, do you solemnly swear that the testimony I'm about to give to this court and this jury will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you could just speak into the microphone to the light, please.
Yeah.
Mayor, Your Honor. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Would you state your full name?
Shania Jenkins.
Could you spell your first name
S-H-A-N-E-A-H.
and your last name, please?
J-E-N-K-I-N-S.
And how old are you?
24.
And where did you grow up?
Bristol, Connecticut.
And how far is Bristol, Connecticut from this area, from, say, Fall River?
About 2 hours.
And when you say you grew up there, did you go to school there?
Yes.
And where did you go to high school?
Bristol Central High School.
And after Bristol Central High School, did you graduate?
Yes.
Where did you go from there?
Tunxis Community College.
And how long were you at Tunxis Community College?
About 2 years.
And what were you studying?
Criminology.
After 2 years, did you finish the program there?
Yes.
Where did you go?
Central Connecticut State University.
Where is that located?
New Britain, Connecticut.
And what did you study at Central Connecticut State?
Criminology.
And did you graduate?
Yes.
When did you graduate?
2013.
And as a result of that, well, during the time that you were studying, during your college career, were you working?
Yes.
What kind of work were you doing?
I had several jobs.
Can you just describe the jobs that you were working while you were going to college?
I worked at MR Home Care with the elderly, Bendett and McHugh as a paralegal, and then Comfort Suites.
Okay. And what types of hours were you working during the time you were also attending college?
Kind of around the clock.
Did you work at night?
Yes.
What job did you work at night, or jobs?
Comfort Suites.
In Comfort Suite Hotel, where is that located?
Southington, Connecticut.
And how far is that from Bristol?
Maybe 20 minutes.
And what type of work were you doing for Comfort Suite?
I worked at the front desk.
When you say you worked at the front desk and that was a night shift,
Correct.
what hours did you work?
3 to 11 or 11 to 7.
And when did you go to school?
At night, weeknights.
Now, as you worked that job at Comfort Suite during the night shift while you were attending college, did you have an occasion to meet an individual by the name of Odin Lloyd?
Yes.
Can you tell us how you met Odin Lloyd?
I met him at the hotel. His company came down to work in Connecticut from Massachusetts, and I met him while I was working at the front desk.
And when you say his company, do you recall the name of his company?
Electcom.
And what type of work did they do, if you know?
Electrical work.
And do you know what area they were working at?
All over the place.
How, do you recall when you first met him?
In, I think, early 2012.
And how far along in your college were you at that time?
I think it was a year prior to when I graduated.
And as a result of meeting him while you were working the night shift, how often would you see him after that?
A couple times a week.
And do you know how long during the week he would be down staying at Comfort Suite hotels working for Electcom?
It varied. Most of the time, either Sunday, he came down Sunday or Monday and left Thursday.
See. And during that time that he was down working and you were working as well, did you strike up a relationship together?
Yes.
And when did that relationship start?
March of 2012.
And would you characterize that as a dating relationship?
Yes.
And how long did you continue to date Odin Lloyd?
Until he was murdered.
Now, during the time after you started dating him, did you ever have occasion to see him someplace other than at the Comfort Suite Hotel?
Yes.
And where else would you see him?
Either at my house or in Massachusetts.
When you say at your house, where were you living at the time?
Bristol, Connecticut.
And your family, where was your family living at that time?
Bristol, Connecticut.
Now, when you grew up in Connecticut, when I say your family, just tell us the members of your family you grew up with.
Most of my family's from Connecticut, but it was mainly my mother and my 2 sisters.
Okay. When you say you have 2 sisters, what are their names?
Cheyenne Jenkins and Ontavia Samuel.
Now, Shayana Jenkins, is she older or younger than you are?
Older.
How many years older?
About 2.
How about your sister, Ontavia? How old is she?
She is 6 years younger than I am.
So with regard to growing up, it was your mother, yourself, and your 2 sisters.
Correct.
Now, after you had begun to date Odin Lloyd, were there occasions he would come and visit with you or any member of your family in Connecticut?
Yes.
And were there other occasions that you would go, did you learn where he was from?
Yes.
And where was that?
Dorchester?
And did you ever have an occasion to go and visit him in Dorchester?
Yes.
Approximately how many times did you travel from Connecticut to go and visit him up in Massachusetts?
More than I can count.
And did you ever have an occasion to meet any members of his family?
Yes.
And who, do you remember where he lived?
Yes.
Where was that?
10 Fayston Street.
And was that in Dorchester?
Correct.
And did he live there with other members of his family?
Yes.
And who were those members that you were able to meet?
His mother, his 2 sisters, his niece, and his uncle.
And his mother, what is her name?
Ursula Ward.
And how about his 2 sisters?
Shaquila Tibu and Olivia Tibu.
And during the time when you, on the number of occasions that you traveled from Connecticut, how long, let me just back up a second. In March of 2012, you began to date.
Correct.
And sometime after that, did you have your first occasion to come to Massachusetts?
Yes.
And do you remember when that was?
I don't.
Now, going back to your sister, your older sister, Shayana, did she go to the same high school that you went to?
Yes.
And when she was in high school, do you know how many years between you?
2.
So was there 2 years that you were at the high school that she was also there?
Yes.
And while she was at the same high school during the years you were there, do you know whether she was dating anybody?
Yes.
And do you know who she was dating?
Aaron Hernandez.
And do you recall what year she was in when she began to date Aaron Hernandez?
I think her junior year, I'm not sure.
As a result of her dating Aaron Hernandez, at some point did you meet Aaron Hernandez?
Yes.
Now,
Approach on me. And I'm just going to show you a photograph. I'm going to ask you if you recognize the person depicted in the photograph.
Yes.
Okay. Who is that?
Odin.
Okay. And is that Odin Lloyd?
Yes.
Okay. Run right off of this is the first exhibit.
Any objection? No. Maybe not his state. Exhibit.
Exhibit 1.
Thank you. If I could use the overhead, Your Honor. Just placing what's now been marked Exhibit 1 on the overhead. That's Odin.
Yes.
And with regard to, he's wearing a hat in this picture.
Yes.
Do you know what kind of hat that is?
Kango hat?
A Kango, is that Kango?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Had you, on other occasions, had you seen him wear a similar hat?
Yes.
Now, at the time that you had started to date Odin Lloyd, how old was he?
26.
And you dated for about a year and a half, is that fair?
Correct.
Now, with regard to your, when you had begun to date Odin Lloyd, where was your sister living at that time?
Plainville, Massachusetts?
And had you ever gone to Plainville to visit?
Yes.
How long after beginning to date Odin Lloyd were they living in Plainville?
They were living there until December, I think, of 2012.
Okay. So if you had begun dating in March 2012 till the end of that year about?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And you had occasion to visit Plainville. During the months after you began dating Odin, was there ever an occasion that you were together with Odin and where Aaron Hernandez and your sister were also present?
Yes.
When was the first occasion that they were together?
August 9th of 2012.
Okay. And what did that date have any significance?
Yes.
And what was that?
It's my birthday.
So on August 9th of 2012, did you go somewhere on your birthday?
Yes.
And where did you go?
To a football game?
And did anyone go with you?
Yes.
Who was that?
My sister, Odin, and I believe my younger sister as well.
And did you watch the game?
Yes.
Was that a regular or preseason game?
I believe preseason.
Now, at some point after the game, did you have an occasion yourself in the company of your sisters and Odin to meet up with Aaron Hernandez?
Yes.
And where was that?
In the tunnel at the football game?
Now, after that meeting, how frequently would you see your sister or Aaron Hernandez?
A couple times a month.
And was that always with or without, or sometimes with and sometimes without Odin?
Both.
And from the August of when Odin first would have met Aaron Hernandez till December, where would you get together?
At their house in Plainville.
Now, sometime in November of 2012, did something happen?
Yes.
What was that?
My niece was born.
Okay. And your niece was born to whom?
My sister and Aaron.
And your niece's name is?
AVL.
Okay, so she was born in November 2012.
Correct.
As a result of her birth, did Aaron Hernandez and your sister Shayana move somewhere else?
Yes.
And where did they move?
North Attleboro.
And I'm just going to show you two more photographs, ask if you recognize who's depicted in these photos.
Yes.
Okay, who's depicted in this first one?
Aaron.
Is that Aaron Hernandez?
Yes.
And the second one?
My sister Cheyenne Jenkins.
Okay. You want to offer these as the next two exhibits?
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
They may be marked as the next exhibits.
With 2 and 3.
You want if I could present this?
Me.
I'm placing exhibit number 2 On the overhead, you recognize that as Aaron Hernandez?
Yes.
And now exhibit number 3, and that's your sister Shayana.
Yes.
Now, as a result of the birth of their daughter and moving to North Attleboro,
Yes.
did you continue to visit on occasion either by yourself or with Odin?
Yes.
And do you recall the address of that home?
22 Ronald C. Meyer Drive.
And approximately how many times would you estimate you'd been to that home?
More than I can count.
Now, sometime, did that continue now? The purchase of the home was December 2012?
Around that time, yes.
And do you recall in early 2013 occasions that you had gone to the house either with or without Odin?
Yes.
And on the occasions, and did that continue right up until June of 2013?
Yes.
And on the occasions that you went to the house, did you ever see anybody else who was present?
Yes.
And who was that?
There were numerous people present.
Okay. Did you ever see someone who was consistently present?
Yes.
And who was that?
Bo.
When you say Bo, who is Bo?
Ernest Wallace.
Okay. And with regard to Ernest Wallace, or Bo, do you see that individual in the courtroom?
Yes.
And can you just point him out and describe what he's wearing?
He's over there. He's wearing a blue suit jacket and a gray tie.
Your Honor, if the record can reflect the witness identifying the defendant. Do you recall when the first occasion that you met him?
Vaguely.
Okay. And on how many occasions would you estimate that you had seen him at the home of Aaron Hernandez?
Numerous times.
And on those occasions, did you come to know him at all in terms of develop a relationship with him?
I don't know that I'd call it a relationship.
Okay. And do you know what he did for Aaron Hernandez, if anything?
Sustained, unless it was a statement made by Mr. Wallace or something that you observed.
Did you ever notice what he was doing during the times, the number of occasions that you saw him at the house?
Not anything specific, no.
Okay. Did you ever see him in any vehicles?
Yes.
Okay, and what was he doing in the vehicles, if you know?
Driving.
And do you know if he was driving with anybody else in the car?
Most of the time, Aaron.
And do you know what kinds of cars he was driving?
Various rental cars.
And can you describe any of those cars?
Mainly trucks like Tahoes, Suburbans.
And did you, when you were at the home, did you ever see where he was spending his time?
Objection. Could we see the court for a moment?
back, when did you first meet Mr. Wallace or see him at Aaron Hernandez's house?
Early 2013.
And during the course of that, say from January to June of 2013, how many occasions had you traveled to North Attleboro to visit your sister or Mr. Hernandez at the home?
I'm not sure.
Approximately how many times, if you can estimate, did you see Mr. Wallace in the company of, or just in North Attleboro?
The majority of the time that I saw Aaron, I saw Mr. Wallace.
And when you would see him, would you see him inside the home or outside of the home or both?
For the most part, inside the home.
And what would you see him doing at the home?
Nothing specific, just hanging around.
And when he was hanging around, who was he hanging around with?
Aaron.
And what areas of the home did he hang around?
Mainly the basement, or I'd see him in the kitchen or living room.
Now, you were familiar with the, and if I could, Your Honor, actually.
May I approach you?
Me.
And let me show you two more photos. Recognize this photo?
Yes.
Okay, and who do you recognize that to be?
The defendant?
Ernest Wallace?
Yes.
And did you ever know him as Ernest Wallace, or did you know him as by a nickname?
By nickname?
Okay, and that was?
Bo?
Are you familiar with the name Fish?
No.
Okay. I'm just going to show you this photograph. Do you recognize this person?
Yes.
And who was that?
Tanya Singleton?
And Tanya Singleton, had you met her?
Yes.
And what relation, if any, is she to Aaron Hernandez?
I believe his cousin?
You're on it off of these as the next two. Photo exhibits.
Remarks the next exhibit.
Exhibits 4 and 5.
Thank you. I don't know if I could use it to present. I'm putting 4 on the overhead. That's the individual you knew as Bo.
Yes.
Number 5, that's who you knew as Tanya Singleton.
Correct.
Now, when you were visiting, were there occasions when you visited, again, from January 2013 to June 2013, that you would stay over?
Yes.
Do you know whether the defendant ever stayed over?
Yes.
And where would he stay?
As far as I know, in the basement.
And the layout of the home, had you ever been to the basement?
Yes.
And can you just describe it?
It had a pool table, TV, bar area, bathroom, bedroom, and a theater room.
And had you spent time down there, say in the theater room or other areas of the basement?
Yes.
Approach. Ma'am, I'm going to show you a series of photographs, ask you if you just take a look at them and see if you recognize what's depicted in those photos.
Yes.
Okay, and what do you recognize those photos as?
My sister's house.
Okay. And does that show various parts of the house from the outside?
Yes.
Now, while I'm here, if I could also show you these two documents and just ask you if you recognize what's depicted in those.
Yes.
Okay, and what do you recognize that to portray?
The layout of the house?
And does the layout is portrayed here on these two documents fairly and accurately show the layout of the home of Aaron Hernandez and your sister Shayana Jenkins?
Yes.
Your Honor, off of these, the next exhibits.
Any objection? Maybe back to the next exhibits.
And Your Honor, if it helps, could we just do them in groups, as A, B, and C, et cetera?
A through H and 7A and B.
Thank you. Let me see what I can present these. And I'm putting what's been now marked 6A on the overhead. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes.
And what is that? What does that depict?
The front of my sister and Aaron's home?
Is that located at 22 Ronald C. Meyer?
Yes.
And just as an orientation, looking at this photo, where's the driveway?
To the right?
Okay. So over in this area here.
Correct.
Now putting 6B on the overhead. Does that show the front of the house as well?
Yes.
See that a little bit different angle?
Yes.
And can you now see portions of the driveway and garage?
Yes.
And ma'am, when you would travel from Connecticut to your sister Aaron's home, did you have your own car at that time?
Yes.
And what kind of car did you have?
Nissan Sentra?
And what color was it?
Red?
And when you would visit, would you park in a particular area?
Yes.
And where was that?
The driveway?
Okay, and was there a certain area of the driveway that you would park?
Normally on the side of the garage?
Are you familiar with, it's showing here the garage door open? Do you know how many garage doors, or how many garages there were?
Yes.
How many?
3.
Okay, and from this angle, how many are shown?
1.
And where are the other 2?
Right over here.
Okay,
So
right
to the
there.
left of the open garage?
Okay, to the left here. Just going to show you now what's been marked. Exhibit 6C. Does that show that angle of the garage?
Yes,
Okay, and that's where the other two garage doors are.
correct.
Now, there's a vehicle shown in this photograph. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
And whose car is this?
My sister's
And what kind of car is it?
Audi
And is it what style of car?
SUV.
Now, just going back to 6A, when you visited, how would you access or go into the house?
Through the garage?
Did you ever have an occasion to go through the front door?
Yes.
Okay, and is that shown here as double doors?
Yes.
Now, when you say you would go through the garage on other occasions, how would you access the house through the garage?
There's a door in the garage.
Okay, and would you, just in terms of from this area here, where would you go?
Through the garage door.
And which garage door?
Whichever one was open.
I see, okay. Now, is there a keypad in that area?
Yes.
And would you use the keypad to let yourself in?
No.
Just going to show you what's marked as now 6D. What does this depict?
The side of the garage and the entrance to the backyard.
Okay. And that entrance to the backyard, where does that lead you to?
To the backyard pool area.
Okay. I'm going to show you now what's been marked 6E. Recognize that scene?
Yes.
And what is this showing? What area of the property?
The backyard.
Now, just a minute ago when I showed you 6D, does that pathway continue around to lead you into this area?
Yes.
And does that path essentially run the full length of the house?
Yes.
Showing you now what's marked 6F. You recognize this?
Yes.
Is that a little bit different angle of the back of the house?
Yes.
Can you see, are you familiar with a gate over in this area?
Yes.
Do you know where, if you go through that gate, where that goes?
It leads to the other part of the back area, the entrance to the basement.
Let me just go back for 1 second. There's a, you see this area over here, this porch area?
Yes.
Where does, is that accessible from inside the home?
Yes.
And where, if you went up those stairs and entered the home, what room would you be in?
You could either enter into the great room or the kitchen.
Now, do you know what kind of doors there are in the great room?
Double doors?
And do you know whether you can see out of the glass?
Yes.
Just going to show you what's now marked as 6G. Do you recognize this area?
Yes.
What do you recognize it as?
It's the backyard entrance to the basement.
And a minute ago when I had asked you about the gate in the back, that being, I showed you 6F, and this gate over here. If you went through that gate, would you wind up in this area of the home?
Yes.
Do you know what's on the other side of this?
The workout room?
And can you access the workout room from inside the home?
Yes.
And how do you do that?
From the basement?
Showing you now what's been marked 6H. Recognize this.
Yes.
What do you recognize this to be?
The back porch?
You indicate those doors that into the great room, are those shown there?
Yes.
I'm just going to show you what's been marked now 7A. You indicate this fairly and accurately depicts the layout of the home.
Correct.
Okay. Now, going back to 6A, the front of the house, is that shown by the lower part of this diagram?
Yes.
And you've had occasion to enter that, that area in the front?
Yes.
Now, are you, when you enter the home, what room do you come into?
Through the front door?
Oh, yes, if you came in through the front door.
The foyer area?
And then from the foyer, can you go left or right?
Yes.
And if you go right, where do you go?
The dining room?
How about left?
To the formal living room?
And now, with regard, if you went into the formal living room, this area back in here, can you tell us what is in that area?
There's a closet and an office.
Okay. Now, the closet, is that noted here?
Yes.
Is that WS a walk-in closet?
Yes.
And how about this area over here?
It's a bathroom.
Okay, and then in the back?
It's the office.
And moving over from the foyer, if you proceeded into this area here, what is that?
The great room?
Okay, and beyond here, is that the porch we were just talking about?
Yes.
Now, from the great room, can you go into a kitchen area?
Yes.
Is that shown in this area here?
Yes.
And then if you, on the occasions you indicated that you came in from the garage, can you just walk us how you're able to do that from the garage into the home?
There's stairs in the garage that would lead you into like another foyer area that goes into the kitchen.
Okay. Now, would you enter either through the one-car garage or the two-car garage or both?
Both.
Okay. When you say there's stairs, are those shown here?
Yes.
And where are the stairs shown?
Right here.
Okay, right in here.
Correct.
Now, are you familiar with, when you had visited in the spring of, so from January to June of 2013, at some point, did you observe any surveillance cameras or equipment?
Yes.
Okay. And when did you first observe those?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember where you observed them?
Yes.
Okay. Can you just tell us?
There's two on the porch, one in the backyard, one near the garages, one in the foyer living room area, and one in the basement.
Okay. And just while I'm here, can you describe any of the locations that you just mentioned as to where there was surveillance equipment?
Do you want me to point it?
Yes, if you could just point, I'll try and track your finger.
One here.
Okay, so you're pointing one here.
Yep.
Is
One
that inside or outside?
outside on the
Okay.
porch. So one there, one here,
One here.
one there.
Now this one here, is that inside?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there's one on the back porch,
One on the back porch, is that inside or outside?
outside.
Okay.
I believe there's one somewhere in the garage area. I'm not sure if
Okay.
it's
You're
over
indicating
here.
somewhere in
Yeah.
that area?
And then one in the basement.
Okay. Well, okay, while I have this 7A in front of you, do you know whether, was there a control panel for the surveillance equipment?
There were a few, yes.
Okay, and can you tell us on the first floor where any panels were located?
Right here.
Okay, you're pointing right in this area
Yeah,
here.
in the kitchen.
And can you just describe what did that look like or what could you see?
It was built into the wall. You could either look at the cameras, what you could view off of the cameras, or you could play music.
Okay. And when you looked at that little panel, could you see different parts of the house?
Yes.
And the areas that you had described where you saw cameras, did they correspond to the areas that you could see looking at the panel?
I believe so, yes.
I'm just going to show you what's now marked 7B. You recognize that as the lower level, the basement?
Yes.
Now, with regard to, let me just go back one moment, 7A, how do you access the basement from the first floor?
The door right here?
And you're indicating right here?
Yes.
Okay. Is that under the stairs?
Yes.
And is that accurately reflected in this area here?
Yes.
Now, if you go down those stairs, where do you arrive?
In another foyer area?
Okay. And then from, can you go to other places from the foyer, the lower foyer?
Yes.
Okay, and where can you go?
You can either go into the basement or you can go into a bathroom.
Okay. And could you just indicate how would you go to the bathroom?
You would take a right at the bottom of the stairs.
Okay. And how about to the basement you refer to?
You would go take a left and go through the foyer area.
Okay, you're indicating through here.
Correct.
Okay. Are you familiar with this space over here?
Yes.
And what is in there?
Storage, I believe.
Okay. And is that unfinished space?
I believe so.
Now, if you went into the rest of the basement as you described going through here, just describe that area.
There was a pool table, couch, TV, and a bar area.
And is that all in this area, essentially here?
Yes.
And the bar, can you just point out where that is? That's shown as that rectangle there?
Yes.
Okay. And from that area, can you access this area referred to as home theater?
Yes.
Can you just describe that area if you would?
It has theater chairs and a big screen that you can watch movies.
Okay. Now, where is the big screen located in that room? You're indicating the top here.
Yes.
And is there any equipment in that area?
Yes.
And what type of equipment?
All the equipment to control the theater.
Had you ever been down there to watch a movie or TV or anything of that nature?
Yes.
Now, you had also indicated when I showed you the last photo, strike that, 6G, it was an exercise room.
Yes.
And if you go through that door, where would you wind up in that lower level? You're indicating over here.
Yes.
Okay. So is it fair to say the basement, the pool area is essentially running across the top here?
Correct.
Now, I think you described there was a bedroom down in this area.
Yes.
Is that shown here?
Yes.
And can you just point that out? That's just located over here.
Correct.
Okay. And is that off the pool room?
Yes.
Me.
And I'm going to show you another set of photographs, ask you to take a look at them and see if you recognize them.
Yes.
Okay, and what do you recognize these to depict?
Most of them are interior photos of the house, and then the first one is the front porch.
Okay. Do they fairly and accurately depict the home of Aaron and Shayana?
Yes.
All right, off the list of the next exhibit.
Any objection? Maybe mark as next exhibit.
A through I.
I'm placing 8A on the overhead. You indicate this was an outdoor shot,
Yes,
and what does that depict?
the front porch.
And on that front porch, you described that there were two cameras in that area. Are they visible in this photograph?
Yes,
Okay, can you just point to where those are? Indicating over here
yes,
and right there.
yes.
Okay. Placing number 8B. Recognize the scene this depicts.
Yes,
What is that?
the foyer area.
And that's coming from, when you say the foyer, the front, coming through the front door.
Correct.
Does that show the stairs there on the left?
Yes,
And this door over here, what door is that?
basement door.
I'll show you now 8C. Does that show this same area, just a different viewpoint?
Yes,
And that door, obviously, to the basement?
yes.
Just going back to that foyer area, 8B. You see one of the cameras that you had described?
Yes,
Okay, where is that located? Indicating over in here?
yes,
Show you this photograph. It's marked 8D. What does this depict?
the walk-in closet near the office.
Okay, so is that, when you come through the front door, is that left or right?
Left, I'm sorry.
Okay. And with regard to the closet, what was that closet, when you were visiting, what was that closet used to store?
Shoes and dresses.
And with regard to the shoes, what type of shoes were stored there, if you know?
From what I can remember, I believe sneakers and some of my sister's heels.
Okay, when you say sneakers, do you know whose sneakers were stored there?
Aaron's.
Is that depicted a number of shelves with sneakers from top to bottom?
Yes,
Now, if you move over to the right where this photo is, there some clothing or dresses also hung in there?
yes,
Let me show you what's marked 8E. Recognize this scene?
yes.
What does that show?
Stairs to the upstairs.
And when you get to the top of the stairs, is that a door opening over here?
Yes.
And can you tell us what is in that area?
To the left was the master bedroom, and to the right was my niece's bedroom.
Okay, so going through here to the left, master bedroom, to the right, your niece's.
Correct.
And are there some other rooms if you went down this little balcony area?
Yes,
And when you stayed, where would you stay?
Normally this way to the room to the left.
Okay. Just placing number 8F on the overhead, you recognize the scene depicted here.
Yes.
What does this show?
The great room?
Okay. And the great room, after you go by the stairs, would take you into that area. Is that true?
Yes.
So if you continued along here, you'd come into this area right in here.
Correct.
And that room there, in terms of the furnishings, is that how you remember the furnishings in terms of their placement?
Yes.
And was there a TV in that room?
Yes.
And that also abutted the kitchen, is that true?
Yes.
And that would be over in here.
Correct.
Just going to show you what was now marked 8G. Does that show just a different viewpoint of that same room?
Yes.
And one of the, are you able to see one of the surveillance cameras that you had mentioned earlier?
Yes.
And where is that? You're pointing up in here?
Yes.
Let me show you now 8H. What area of the home is this?
The kitchen?
And earlier when I asked you about a security panel and you pointed out on the diagram, do you see that in this area?
Yes.
Okay, where is that, please? Indicating over to here.
Yes.
I'm going to show you now 8I. Recognize the scene here.
Yes.
And what is shown in this picture?
Master bedroom?
And who lived in the master bedroom or who stayed there?
My sister and Aaron?
And was there a control panel for the surveillance system in the master bedroom?
Yes.
Okay, is that visible in this photograph?
Yes.
Where is that, please? You're pointing right over here, is that true?
Correct.
Just going to go back to, excuse me, 8F. Just the doors we had discussed earlier from the porch into the great room, are those shown here?
Yes.
And there were blinds on those doors?
Yes.
Had you ever seen the blinds open so you were able to look out into the backyard?
Yes.
May I approach you? Ma'am, I'm just going to show you another series of photographs. Ask you to take a look at those, please. you recognize the scenes depicted in these photographs?
Yes,
And what do you recognize them as?
the basement and the garage.
And they appear to be fairly accurately depicted from your memories of the home of Aaron and Shannon.
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd offer these as the next exhibit.
Any objection?
None.
You knocked it out. Objection?
Line A through N.
And I'm placing 9A on the presenter. What does this show?
The stairs going down to the basement.
Nine B, please.
The basement area.
Okay. And that basement area you had mentioned before, the bar area, pool table, couch, and TV, is that shown here?
Yes.
Now, off in the far right-hand corner, where does that go?
The theater room.
Okay, and how about off into the far left?
The exercise room.
And what about this doorway right over here?
Bedroom.
Now, was there a camera as well in the basement?
Yes.
And is that visible in this photograph?
Yes.
Okay, where is that, please? Pointing the back corner up here.
Yes.
Placing number 9C on the overhead, you recognize that?
Yes.
And what does this depict?
The bar area.
And again, that doorway to the bedroom, is that shown in this area here?
Yes.
Nine D. Recognize that?
Yes.
Okay, what does this show?
The bar area.
Just different angle?
Correct.
Now, you had indicated, or were you familiar with a control panel for the surveillance system in the basement?
Yes.
Okay, and is that shown in this photograph?
Yes.
Can you just point to that, please? You're pointing over in here?
Yes.
And just with regard to the bar, what color was the bar?
A dark wood color, like a cherry wood.
And did it have a certain style or lip to it?
Yes.
Is that shown here?
Yes.
And you indicated you could access a theater room, is that true?
Yes.
I'm placing number 9E on the overhead. Do you recognize the scene depicted here?
Yes.
Okay, what does it show?
The theater room.
Okay. And the doors off to the right here, does that take you back out to the central part of the basement?
Yes.
showing you number 9F. Does that show that same area, just a different angle or view?
Yes.
Can you see the big screen here?
Yes.
And when you had indicated earlier when I asked you about equipment, where was the equipment located?
Behind the screen to the left.
And so could you access it by just going by this, the left side of the screen?
Correct.
Let me show you 9G. Can you see that area on the left side of the screen?
Yes.
Does that show some of that equipment?
Yes.
And 9H, the area that you had described, is this that equipment?
Yes.
I'll show you 9I, and what do you recognize this to be?
The basement bedroom.
J.
The bathroom in the basement.
And is that adjoined both that foyer and the bedroom?
Yes.
K, recognize that?
Yes.
What is that area?
The exercise room.
Now, are there blinds on the windows and doors?
Yes.
And if you exited where the blinds are here, can you get out there?
Yes.
And where would you find yourself?
In the backyard.
Is that area that we had, that you had indicated would take you into the exercise room from the outside?
Yes.
Just going to show you 9L. Recognize it's depicted in this photograph.
Yes.
And what is that?
The garage and a vehicle in it.
When you say a garage and a vehicle, had you seen that vehicle before?
Yes.
And when, if you recall, did you first see it?
I don't remember.
Okay, do you know how many occasions or approximately how long you had seen it?
Maybe a few months. I'm not sure how many occasions.
Do you know whose car this was?
No.
And do you know whether anybody ever used this car?
I don't know.
Okay, how would you describe the condition of the car?
It was an older vehicle.
Do you know whether it was registered or not?
I don't know.
Just going to show you now what was marked 9M. What is depicted in this scene?
The garage and the entrance to the home.
And so those the two-car garage, were cars outside of this car, did you ever see another car being parked inside?
Yes.
And who would park in there?
My sister.
And you indicated you could access now the house by going up those stairs, and that would lead you towards the kitchen?
Correct.
Now, ma'am, you indicated on a number of occasions that you had traveled from Connecticut to up to Massachusetts to visit Odin.
Correct.
And your trip from Bristol, Connecticut to Dorchester would take you how long?
Between 2 and 2.5 hours.
And were there occasions you just traveled from Bristol to North Attleboro?
Yes.
And what route would you take?
I'm not sure.
Do you know whether you would ever travel on Route 95?
I believe so.
And do you have any knowledge about traveling through Providence on your way to North Attleboro?
I don't know.
I'm just going to show you the diagrams and some photos. If you just look at those documents, see if you recognize what's contained. Do you recognize what's depicted on each of these documents?
Yes.
And do they fairly and accurately purport to what's shown either by way of a diagram or by the picture?
Yes.
Okay, Your Honor, I'd offer these as a group.
Remarks next exhibit.
I guess something like this.
A through 10E.
Thank you. I have to use the other one. I'm just going to show you a map of an area showing an area from essentially the lower corner down here, North Attleboro, and including up to Boston. Are you familiar with this, what's reported in the map?
Yes.
Now, when you would visit Shayana and Aaron Hernandez, either with or without Odin, did you ever have an occasion then to leave North Attleboro and drive to Odin's house?
Yes.
Okay. And just when you left their house, just describe how you would go, how you would travel initially to get onto some roadway that would take you towards his home.
I would have to go through the industrial park near passing the grocery store, and then the highway would be right there.
Okay, so when you left their house, is it fair to say they live in a neighborhood?
Correct.
Okay, so other homes are around.
Yes.
But after leaving the neighborhood, how long would it take you from the departure to get towards a highway?
Maybe 5 minutes.
Okay. And during that time, would you travel through an industrial park?
Yes.
Do you know the name of that industrial park?
I don't.
Okay. And you indicated at some point you passed a grocery store.
Yes.
And after you pass the grocery store, how much beyond that can you access a highway?
It's right there.
Okay. Do you know what highway that is?
I think 95.
Okay. And do you know what your direction of travel would be once you get onto 95? Where would you head?
I have no idea.
Okay. Do you know whether you were going north or south?
Nope, I have no
Would
idea.
there be a sign towards Boston or towards Providence?
Yes.
Okay. And which sign do you recall that you would, what direction would you go based on the sign?
Towards Boston.
Now, do you know how long you traveled on Route 95?
I don't.
Okay. Do you recall where you would get off?
Yes.
Okay, and can you just describe that?
It would be the Blue Hill Ave near the gas stations.
Okay. And so on how many occasions did you drive this route and get off in an area, Blue Hill, near gas stations?
Several times.
Did you ever make observations of those gas stations?
Yes.
I'm just going to show you what's been marked 10B. To recognize this gas station as one of the gas stations in that area where you would get off a continue along to Odin's home.
Yes.
Now, do you remember where Odin lived, what his address was?
Yes.
And what was that?
10 Fayston Street.
And can you just describe that neighborhood?
It's a one-way street, bunch of houses on it.
Okay, when you say bunch of, is it fairly dense area in terms of homes?
Yes.
I'm just going to show you now what's been marked 10C and ask you if Fayston Street is shown on the projector.
Yes.
Now, you indicated, can you just point that out, please? Right in the center.
Yes.
Now, can you indicate, you said it was a one-way street, which way did it run?
Towards Blue Hill Ave.
Okay, and Blue Hill Ave is where on this? You're pointing over to here.
Yes.
Okay, so towards Blue Hill Ave, meaning coming from right to left.
Correct.
Where approximately on the street did Odin Lloyd live?
Almost near the end, near Blue Hill Ave.
Okay, and on which side?
On the right side.
On the right side, so somewhere you're indicating near the end down this location?
Yes.
And on the occasions you drove, what was the closest side street that you could take to then come down to get to his house, being it a one-way?
I would have to go down Quincy Street and then take a right onto one of the side streets to get onto Fayston.
Okay, and you see Quincy Street shown on this diagram?
Yes.
Okay, and just point that out, please. Okay, this what's in yellow?
Yes.
And do you know what side street you would take to do that?
It would vary.
Okay, so this 10C showing a couple of choices. Could you use any one of those, or anything prevent you from using those?
Not that I know of, no.
Just going to show you now 10D. Do you recognize what's depicted here?
Yes.
And what is that?
Odin's house.
When you say Odin's house, it's marked as, what is the street address?
10 Fayston Street.
Okay, and 12 Fayston, do you know, was this a duplex or was it all one home?
It was a duplex.
Okay, and when you say he lived at, his home was number 10, is that shown to the left side?
Yes.
And who did he live there with?
His mother, 2 sisters, niece, and uncle.
And just in terms of the birth order, do you know what was he, the eldest, the middle, or the youngest?
He was the oldest.
How old were his 2 sisters, Shaquilla and Olivia?
Oh, at that time, I don't know.
Okay. Do you know how many years between them?
I believe Olivia's 2 years younger, and Shaquilla is about 8 years younger.
Okay. Now, with regard to the, had you ever been into the home?
Yes.
And with regard to the property, was there a driveway area?
Yes.
And where's that located?
To the left?
And you're saying to the left as we're looking at it?
Correct.
So over in this area?
Yes.
Did Odin, did he have a license?
Yes.
Do you know if he owned a car?
He did not.
Do you know what kind of work he was doing after, when you began to see him up here? Was he still with that same company, Electcom?
No.
Do you know what kind of work he was doing?
Landscaping?
And do you know where that job was located?
Norwood?
And do you know how he traveled to and from Norwood?
On his bike?
I'm just going to show you what's now marked 10E. Do you recognize this home?
Yes.
And where do you recognize that from?
It's a home on Fayston Street,
Okay, do you know its proximity to Odin's home?
across the street.
Now, in the spring of 2013, what year did you graduate college?
2013,
Okay, do you remember the date?
May 18th, I believe.
And was there a graduation ceremony?
Yes.
Where was that?
New Britain, or actually Hartford, Connecticut.
And did Odin attend that?
Yes.
Your sister Shauna?
Yes.
How about Aaron Hernandez?
No.
And after your graduation, had you made plans for what you were going to do after the summer?
Yes.
And what was that?
Attend law school.
Had you applied?
Yes.
And had you been accepted anywhere?
Yes.
And where was that?
New England law.
As a result of being accepted, had you made any plans about where you were going to live?
Yes.
And what plans had you made?
Odin and I were going to move in with each other in Boston.
And did ultimately you go to law school?
Yes.
How far into your law career are you?
I'm ending my 3rd year.
And how many more years do you have?
1.
And at that time, when was the last time you remember seeing Odin Lloyd?
The weekend before he died.
Where did you see him?
At my sister's house.
And what was the occasion that you saw him at your sister's home?
We stayed there for the weekend because I had an interview.
And what was the interview for?
A paralegal position.
Did you end up getting that paralegal position?
No.
Now, when you say you were there for the weekend, it's after that, do you remember what day you left?
Sunday?
And when you left, was Odin with you?
No.
And do you know, had he been at the home still?
Yes.
And do you know how he was getting back to his home?
Bo and Aaron were supposed to take him home.
So on that last occasion that you were there, who else was at the home?
Myself, Odin, Aaron, my sister, my niece, and Bo.
Bo meaning the defendant.
Correct.
Now, after that, that being the last occasion you actually saw him, did you continue to talk to him?
Yes.
Okay, and how frequently were you speaking with each other?
Multiple times a day.
Now, do you remember the date that you last saw him?
I don't. I'd have to look at a calendar.
Okay. Let me ask it this way. During the course of that week, were you talking every day?
Yes.
Okay. Did that continue through the weekdays and then into the weekend?
Yes.
Do you know when Father's Day was celebrated in 2013?
The 16th of June.
And obviously that's on a Sunday.
Yes.
Do you recall speaking to him on that Sunday?
Yes.
And approximately what time did you last speak with him?
9:30.
Is that 9:30 in the evening?
Yes.
And at that time, did he indicate some intention to do something the following day?
To go to work.
And did he also indicate he had an intention to do something else?
Yes.
And what was that?
Return a rental car.
Had he described what rental car this was that he had to return?
I don't recall.
Now, after that conversation, at some point after that, did you go to bed?
Yes.
And now that would have been the evening, Sunday. Do you recall being Sunday the 16th into the 17th, which would be Monday morning?
Correct.
Now, sometime in the early morning hours, did you receive a phone call from somebody?
Not that day, no.
And I beg your pardon, the following, that being the early into the Tuesday morning, did you receive a phone call?
Yes.
Okay. And approximately what time did you receive that phone call?
Between 1 and 1:30 in the morning.
Now, after Father's Day, when that conversation you had with him approximately 9:30, the next morning, that being Monday morning, Had you made some effort to call him?
Yes.
Okay, do you recall your first, when you first tried to call him?
On my way to work, I think around 7:30.
And were you able to get through to him?
No.
Did you try after that?
Yes.
How long after that, if you remember?
A couple of hours.
And so what time would it have been approximately the next time you tried?
Around noon.
And were you able to get through to him at that time?
No.
Did you try after that?
Yes.
And do you remember when you next tried?
Around 8 o'clock that evening.
Were you able to get through to him at that time?
No.
Was that unusual that you weren't able to make phone contact with Odin?
Yes.
And as a result of not being able to get through to him on that day, Monday, at some point that evening, did you ultimately go to sleep?
Yes.
Now, at approximately 1 or 1:30 in the morning, did you receive a phone call from somebody?
Yes.
And who called you?
Trooper Benson.
And when he called you, did he share some information with you?
Yes.
And what did you learn at that time?
Objection is sustained.
As a result of that phone call, did you do something?
Yes.
And what did you do?
I called my mother.
And after you called your mother, what did you do from there?
I believe I called my sister,
And your sister, which sister?
Cheyenne.
Do you recall what time you called your sister, Shayanna?
I don't.
Sometime within the, some shorter time, a longer time after the call you received from Trooper Benson?
Shortly after.
Were you able to get through to her?
No.
How many times did you try her?
At least twice.
And the second time, were you able to get through to her?
No.
After that, at some point, did she call you back?
Yes.
How long after that, if you know?
I don't recall.
And when she called you back, were you able to talk to her?
Yes.
And could you hear anything in the background when you spoke with her?
It just sounded like she was in the car.
And at that time, do you remember how long you spoke with her?
Just a few minutes.
And as a result of that, what did you do?
I waited for my mother.
And at some point, did your mother come to your home?
Yes.
And where did you go from there?
To pick up my uncle.
And your uncle, what uncle is that?
My Uncle Donnie.
And where does he live?
North Carolina.
Was he up in the Connecticut area for some reason?
Yes.
What was that?
He was visiting.
Had he gone to your graduation?
Yes.
And as a result of your mom and yourself meeting up with your uncle, what did you do from there?
Went to Odin's house.
And when you say went to Odin's house, who went to Odin's house?
Myself and my uncle.
And how were you traveling?
In my car.
And who was driving?
Me.
And do you recall approximately what time, again, you would have been leaving, what town did you ultimately leave from Connecticut?
Bristol.
Okay. How long did it take you to get to Odin's house?
Between 2 and 2.5 hours.
And approximately what time did you arrive?
Around 4:30.
And what did you do when you arrived at Odin's house?
Conversed with his family and whoever else was there.
And how long did you remain at Odin's house at that time?
Maybe 45 minutes to an hour.
What did you do after that 45 minutes, an hour of visiting with the family?
Went to my sister's house.
And when you went to your sister's house after leaving Odin's, were you again driving?
Yes.
And your Uncle Donnie was with you?
Yes.
How long did that drive take you?
About 45 minutes.
And when you, approximately what time did you arrive at your sister's home?
Around 6 in the morning, I believe.
And when you arrived, was anybody up in the house?
Yes,
Who was that?
my sister.
And did you meet with your sister?
Yes.
And where did you meet her?
In the great room?
And your Uncle Donnie, did he also join you?
Yes.
And after meeting her, do you know where Aaron Hernandez was?
I believe he was upstairs.
After meeting with your sister, did you go into the great room for some period of time?
Yes.
In that great room earlier, I showed you some photographs. One of the photographs showed the great room,
Correct.
or a couple actually. That's where the TV and the big couches were.
Yes.
Was there also, did you point out a surveillance camera in that area?
Yes.
And after you got to the great room, and did you spend some amount of time in that room with your sister?
Yes.
Can I see the court inside?
Right.
Approximately what time did you arrive, ma'am?
Where?
At your sister and Aaron Hernandez's home.
About 6 in the morning.
And from there, where did you go? After arriving, where did you go?
Into the great room.
How long did you spend in the great room?
I don't know.
Do you know if it was more or less than an hour?
I think it was more than an hour.
How long do you remember being?
Can recall.
Do you recall whether he was still at the home or had gone somewhere else?
He eventually left.
How long after that interaction that you had with him had he left?
I don't know.
Now, when at the time that you've described your sister getting these short conversations, just orienting yourself to that time, how long before had Aaron left, if you know?
I don't know.
Do you know whether he was still in the house at that time?
He was not.
And when you describe these conversations, approximately how many conversations did you observe her doing this, receiving a call or making a call and leaving the room?
A few.
Okay. Did you see her doing anything with regard to text messaging?
Well, again, I'm going to ask you, instruct you, you may ask her what she saw, not a leading question suggesting something she may have seen.
Do you know what text messaging is?
Yes.
Can you explain what that is?
Typing messages into the phone, into your cell phone.
Okay. And did you ever see anybody doing any of that?
Well, I'm going to strike that. You may ask what she saw someone doing, not specifically, not the specifics of anything.
Can you describe what you saw your sister doing, if anything, with her phone?
Talking on it, and that's it.
I'm sorry?
That's it.
Okay. And how many times did you see her in the hours after your arrival, talking on the phone in the manner you've described?
Several times.
And where would she go when she was having these short conversations?
Into another room. I'm not sure what room.
Now, just describe her demeanor during this time. How was she acting?
Very secretive.
And at that time, just describe your relationship with Shayana Jenkins.
We were extremely close.
Where would she go when she left your company, if you can tell?
If you could see.
I couldn't see.
Okay, well,
It's 1
just
o'clock. We're going to suspend now for lunch recess. Would ask you to return shortly before 2 so we can start at 2. Please keep your mind suspended. Don't discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else.
All rise.